Hey, this is Andrew Leahey from Andrew Leahey and the Homestead, and you're listening to Walking the Floor.
I'm walking the floor over you.
Walking the floor.
I'm walking the floor. Walking the floor over you.
Hola, senors and senoritas. Welcome to another exciting, fun-filled episode of Walking the Floor. It's time to sit back, turn up your iPhone, and shut up and listen, and I will guide you through today's listening experience. I am Chris Shiflett, your host, as always. It's a little overcast today here in Los Angeles, a little rainy, a little gray. Normally, this is the kind of day I'd like to just sit in my house and watch old movies, but I can't because I got to go do a gig today with the Foo Fighters downtown, playing that Music Cares tribute to Tom Petty. So we get to play a couple of Tom Petty songs, and yes, I do get to play the role of Mike Campbell. A little fantasy rock and roll dream come true. You may remember on last week's episode, I told you about how we were looking for a few good men and women to volunteer to be West Coast Town street teamers. We did get a lot of responses from that, but if you feel like still shooting us an email and letting us know what you can do to help promote those shows, we would love it. It's westcoasttowntour@gmail.com. Since last week, I think we added one more show in Atlanta, Georgia on April 10th. Which I believe is the day after the Nashville show. And hey, listen, I like that to get some email responses to this thing. It's great, but let's not use this as an opportunity to browbeat me about all the places that I'm not going. I know all the places I'm not going, and believe you me, I wish I could go to every town in America and beyond, but reality is just not gonna afford me that luxury just yet, but hey, we'll see how these shows go, and then we're gonna try to book some more, in the not too distant future, and hopefully we'll get to some more places. Bear with us. Okay, come on now. You know what time it is. It's Zounds.com time. Zounds.com, the place to go online for all your music gear needs. Do you like listening to this podcast for free? Normally this podcast would probably cost upwards of $100 per episode based on the entertainment value, the street level entertainment value. But thanks to your good friends at Zounds.com, it's free. It's free every episode, and they never go away, and you can listen to them as many times as you want. Zounds.com, that's what they're doing for you. Let's get to the interview. Okay, today's guest is Mr. Andrew Leahey of Andrew Leahey and the Homestead. Andrew is the frontman, guitar player, singer, songwriter in the Homestead, and he's also a part-time, or he was a part-time sideman for other artists. I don't know if he's doing that anymore, as well as a sometimes journalist for lots of top publications. He's a really cool, interesting young man out there making his way in the music industry, and has a really interesting story because he was up and coming fledgling musician, and his career got derailed by a really terrible health issue. He had a brain tumor and had to get it operated on and removed, and then basically, like, before his doctors said, you can go jump back into rock and roll, he just jumped back in there and probably bummed his doctors out, but he'll tell you all about that in this interview. He put out a record last year called Skyline in Central Time. It's on 30 Tigers. He now finds himself, he's got like a management deal and a record deal with 30 Tigers, which is like kind of the place to be in Americana these days. So let's just jump right in. This is Andrew Leahey on Walking the Floor.
I never needed a break, just a kind of mind to remind me it's the good life.
Yeah, I need to be closer, brother, too.
Just a kind of
Test. Mark Slaughter. Fly to the Angels, that was their big hit, right?
Slaughter?
Yeah.
Was that their like power ballad maybe? I
think it was.
Honestly don't remember.
Yeah, I think it was that.
They
had a song on the Wayne's World 2 soundtrack, too.
Am I remembering it correctly that Slaughter was basically born out of the Vinnie Vincent invasion? that there was the Vinnie Vincent invasion, then they fired Vinnie Vincent and became Slaughter.
That's hilarious. I don't know. My older brother was the one who got me into all that at a young age. That was my, I guess like first genre that was like mine.
Right.
You know, kind of like a weird genre to have as yours, but
Right.
I can't tell you the origins of Slaughter, unfortunately. Others I probably
And I
could.
wasn't even planning on going there in this interview, but there you go.
You stumped me.
Hey, in looking through some of the stuff you sent me, there was one thing in there that jumped out at me, and we can just start there because I'm just curious. How did like a rock and roll hipster dude find himself writing for the Washington Times, which if people listening aren't familiar with, is a very conservative, like crazy conservative newspaper.
Yeah.
What was it like? What was your column there?
Well, I don't like to include that all the time because I mean, like some people are quite impressed.
kinda figured
they
there must be
confuse
a
it with
story
Washington Post.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like honestly, I think I had just moved out of New York at the time, and I was kind of working out where I was going to go next. And I think when I was in college, I wrote for this. I went to UVA in Charlottesville, Virginia, kind of close to DC, and one of my like freelance gigs was this newspaper called On Tap. It wasn't really a big thing. It just gave me, as a college kid, a chance to, go to gigs at like 9:30 Club or whatever and get in, cost free and write about it. And I think when I moved out of New York a couple years later, my old editor had gone on and had like written this post at the Washington Times. I think it was called Listen Here, and it was concerts coming through the area. It was just kind of like previews. I would, get on the like phone with the band, talk to them, like write a quick piece, and it was good money, and that's really uncommon in the music journalism world.
Right.
But yeah, I mean they're I think the Moonies owned that place or something.
Oh,
Just
really?
crazy, like right wing places. It only happened once that I guess politics came into it because I was prohibited from talking with Eddie Vedder. My editor said I cannot abide him.
We can't have Eddie Vedder's dangerous ideas in
Totally.
our newspaper.
But I mean, I would do what I could. I would talk to gay bands I knew. The Washington Times, if they knew what was going on, wouldn't want me to talk to. But
was the opposite also true? Did they like make you go interview Ted Nugent or anything like that?
No, I think I did. I interviewed Randy Newman, which was awesome. And
Wait, is he a conservative dude?
No, he's not at all.
Okay.
He's not at all. And he had an album. God, it was probably 2008 or 2009. I forget what the album was, but there was a song that was like really anti-Bush. Comparing him. Well, like it was kind of like tongue in cheek. It was like, at least he's not Stalin. At least he's not Hitler. And my editor thought that like Randy Newman was, like airing on Bush's. I mean, he was. Trying to get us like off like George's back, and I was saying like, no, he's trying to say if that's the, context that we have to put him in,
right?
He's not a good person at all,
right? That's lowering the bar.
Yeah, so like, it was like a difference of approach, but I got good work. I got to talk to Fleetwood Mac, like the Beach Boys and like Mike Love, like I think like Van Morrison.
I mean, do you feel like your work as a journalist has given you a head start into insight into how the music industry kind of functions that maybe you wouldn't have, because you're pretty young now, so you must have been really young when you were first started out writing,
right?
That maybe it would have taken you a little longer. Maybe the rest of us had to go have our teeth kicked in and our dreams shattered a little longer to sort of get the sort of realities of the music industry a little bit.
I guess. I mean, part of me wishes that, like back when I was doing that, when I was like 22, like I wish I had continued, playing in bands and crashing on floors then when it would hurt slightly less.
I was going to ask you about that, like how you balance the two things through the years. I mean, first off, when did you start writing, as
a journalism?
Yeah.
I guess in high school or college, but like I always wanted like people around me to know what I liked and why. And I was always trying to create like a mini community around like every band I liked, just because I thought that was more like enjoyable. Like I like going to like Lollapalooza or whatever. Mm-hmm. I caught you guys there actually in 2000.
The rainstorm year?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So wet and muddy.
Yeah.
Kind of like outside today.
Yeah.
But like the sheer fact that you had 30,000 people in like a totally gross muddy field all there to watch music. I mean, like nothing else can pull people out like that. I guess politics can, but there's always kind of like an air of, contention there or like fear or
right.
like even at like Hillary rallies, I guess there's like like fear for like what would have happened if the other side had won.
Right.
And with music, it's not like that.
Right.
So I think it was just me going from a kid who knew how to talk to his friends and I guess like sell a band to them and tell them why they were good, why I liked them, and then once opportunities came to do that and get paid. I grew up in Richmond, Virginia, and there was this. It was like a weekly teen-oriented section of the Richmond Times-Dispatch, our daily paper out there. Like written by and for teens, and that's kind of where I started. And you got paid,
okay.
and it was
Really?
great. And then just kind of kept like growing my I guess places. I guess like a number of places I wrote for in college. And then once I graduated, I got an offer to go intern at Spin magazine, kind of with the idea. I think that once my internship ended, I could get hired. But what happened was like the magazine was
Then all of
sold.
media,
yeah.
collapsed around you and ceased to exist.
Yeah, and like all my bosses and like people who were much more like senior than I was were losing their jobs, and you've got this flooded job pool, and I was brand new trying to get a gig, and it was harder.
But when did you start playing music? Like, were you playing in bands in high school, sort of prior to that? So, like, did you put playing music kind of on hold while journalism took off, or were you doing the two things at the same time?
It was pretty much like a parallel track until I graduated college, and I got that offer to go to Spin. And like UVA is like a smart school. I feel like I was on the lower end of intelligence in that like student body, but like we graduated, and I had like friends who were going to like Europe and like law school and great big plans, and I didn't really have anything. And when Spin came along, and that was when like Chuck Klosterman was there, and just great writers, and I wanted to go up to New York, and I just kind of jumped at that. And then I think I got caught in jumping from one sinking ship to another, and it took getting to like a pretty high place in my journalism career, articles in like Rolling Stone and like stuff where I was like, wait, I've climbed this one ladder, and like it's not really what I want to climb, and I guess I need to go and start again climbing this one that I had been climbing for years, but I kind of paused.
And did you always have that in mind, that was something you wanted to get back to?
Oh yeah, and I felt almost guilty about I guess casting judgment on like other like musicians who I guess like had the balls to like not have health insurance or like a retirement plan, and we're going and touring and doing what I wanted to do and what I should have been doing and what I'm doing now.
Right.
So at that time I was living up in Michigan, and I was working at a website called allmusic.com, which is a great website, and I had to quit that job, which was a bummer. But then that's when my wife and I went down to Nashville.
Well, let's back up a little bit. You said you grew up in Richmond. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what was that like? What was your childhood like?
Split between growing up in like inner, kind of like I guess like downtown Richmond for the first like half of my childhood, and then going out to the burbs, which were really rural then and are now like Starbucks everywhere and concrete everywhere.
What was Avail from Richmond?
Yeah.
Right.
Great, yeah, great
Some
like
good
punk
music
scene for
there?
sure. But that at the time, I felt like that was kind of our only like thing that we had.
Right.
And it was good for younger kids, because I felt like that like scene catered to like an all ages like vibe often. But there weren't like a lot of other places that had like other kinds of music. I guess like now the community is great. Like now, like when I go back, it's a lot of good thriving like bands. It can be pretty insular at times, but I think it's grown a lot.
It's what got you into music? Was it your family or
friends? My mom had been a classical musician when I was younger, and would get hired to like sing at churches and weddings and funerals and stuff. And I she kind of like pushed my brother and I into it, and got us guitar lessons. I think when I was 6, and like put me in like voice lessons when I was 10, which wasn't cool at all. Got me into choirs. That wasn't cool either. But within like a week,
I bet you're
I was
glad
like,
now,
Mom was
though,
right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, mom was totally right. Like it informed everything. Once I was like in it, I was like, these are my people.
That's a really funny thing that happens when you grow up, and I tell you, it continues to happen to me regularly. Where you go, "Yep, my parents were right. They're right again."
She was, man.
Yeah.
And so, I started like writing songs and, I guess like learning how to play, like by ear too, and kind of, like recognizing patterns with chords and,
Yeah.
I played all throughout high school and then, like toured in college with the band out there too. It was just, I was too worried about, like making a living. Like I wish I hadn't been that focused on that.
Right.
But at that point, I was.
Like what were you listening to growing up? What were your guys? Because you play lead guitar too, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The dying art of the lead guitar. Well, I
Yeah.
guess it's being kind of resurrected now, but it was gone for a long time.
Yeah, but
and I'm guessing like when you were a kid, it was kind of out of vogue. So I'm wondering where you were getting that from.
Well, I had just gotten in. Yeah, I guess like my older brother got me into like hair metal, like you and I were talking about
Right.
before the, like mics were turned on, and that was like a style of. All good.
I'm just double.
You gotta make sure.
You said Mike's turned on. Let me make sure I'm actually recording this. Yeah. We're good.
But like that kind of guitar, it's like it's hard for like an 8-year-old to like digest and be
Sure.
like, I can do that. You can't.
Yeah.
I don't know how to like dive bomb or anything now.
It's hard for the idea that anybody can eventually play like Yngwie Malmsteen is
Totally.
virtually impossible.
But I was just like a casual strummer like until college actually, and I kind of I got paid to play guitar in this like theater company, and like a lot of the time it would be like a damn Yankees musical where you play like 2 chords a song and then
Right.
they sit out for like 20 minutes and you come back in and go brom and then
Right.
you don't do anything for 20 minutes. But we had one show. It was like a like sci-fi like themed oldie show, and I had to play all these like lead parts, and so like that's when I like started like buckling down. And once you like play lead guitar, you worry more about tone, I think, and approach.
Right.
You're not just like bashing away.
Sure.
And it took actually until my band was like Andrew Leahey and the Homestead, like my band now is, I guess it's kind of common in Nashville. You'll have like the guy, like leader or like songwriter or whatever, and kind of a revolving group of musicians who kind of come in and out. And I realized after having like 20 people come in and out of our ranks that like if I was gonna kind of like maintain consistency, I had to be the one playing these riffs and coming up with these riffs and and taking like a like an active role, like not just like as like a vocalist, but as part of the band.
Right.
Too.
Is that when you first started like writing songs and exploring that side of things?
No, I was like writing songs when I was probably middle school and onward.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, like class projects or one, I'd be like, like it terrified me to get in front of a class and like talk about whatever. But if I could get in front of a class and play a song that had, like a book report contained within it, or like, like a like science project, or like it was kind of, crazy that I was allowed to do that. But like, I tended to get good grades because it was really rare.
Right.
And I think like that kind of got me used to putting words with music and whatnot.
Right.
But my bands in like high school and college were original bands. We would tour around as well, but I was just not playing lead guitar
Right.
then. It was purely rhythm.
So how did you what was the transition in your life to go from, you said you moved to New York after college, and then you just mentioned that you were in Michigan for a while.
Ann Arbor, Michigan for a while.
How did you wind up in Nashville? Like what brought you down there?
It was the, I think, like need to get out of Ann Arbor and go to like a place that would kind of kick my ass into gear. Like in Ann Arbor, you can be a musician, but you're not surrounded by like everyone being a musician.
Right.
Well, your waiter is like a waiter and like not a musician.
Right.
You're like a Best
Instead
Buy
of being
guy who's
like
coming
a
to hang your TV. He's not a musician.
What's the line? Was it Vince Gill said something like in Nashville, like the guy parking your car is a better guitar player than you? Something.
And it's true.
Right. Yeah.
But I lived in New York already, and that was great. But I didn't want to go and like spend that money again. I wanted to go to like a music town that would get me into gear. And I felt like living, I guess like for years, like away from Virginia, kind of had taught me what it felt like to live in that part of the country, and it kind of made me fall in love with it in a way that I think I couldn't when I was there.
Sure.
And so, plus it's where like my wife could get a job, so
Right.
like all the chips lined up, and we went there in 2011.
How old were you when you got married? You seem young to be married now.
Yeah, I look younger than I am, but I'm in my 30s. When I got married, I was 24, 25.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, like youngish for sure.
Right. I mean, has that had any effect on like, your ability to drop whatever's going on and go on the road when opportunities come up?
It would if
I think, like,
if Emily was anything less than awesome, it would.
Right,
But, you know, and I mean, currently, like, she's engaged in this long process of becoming like an animal doc. She's in vet school in Knoxville. And so we have like 2 homes in 2 different towns, and we're traveling constantly. And so, you know, I couldn't, like, neither of us could expect the other person to like stay home and not chase after what they're trying to, you know, get to, because, you know, we are each doing that ourselves.
Yeah, yeah. Any kids?
No.
Okay. Well, there you
Knock
go.
on
That's
wood.
yeah.
No.
Wait,
Not yet, man.
wait until you've done some more touring.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we have cats, and that's complicated enough, just trying to get them like back and forth. And if I'm gonna go, you know, on the road for like 3 weeks, I've got to get them to, like, her place in Knoxville.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
If if like exam time comes, I've got to come and get them, so that they're like less of a commitment for her.
It seems to me that Nashville would be a hard place just by virtue of the fact that there's so many incredible musicians there moving there every single day, that to get a gig or get established sort of, you know, as a go-to guy, a gun for hire would be difficult. How did that happen for you?
I don't know. I think I just kind of convinced.
Because you shred that hard, bro. That's the right
maybe
answer.
Maybe that. You know, but, you know, with like Michaela Ann, I mean, I play a U.S. Like earlier, like who my kind of touchstones on guitar were, and I think I'm like more of the like Mike Campbell school, where it's almost like a minimalist thing and more like focus on your tone, and then, you know, like once or twice when you can, you're like, here's what I can do, and you give the whole broad spectrum. But you know, with like a person like Michaela, when like she hired me, I was like, I can, you know, like play like my like style. I can't do great like Albert Lee Telecaster twang thing, and
Right.
you know, like she wanted you know, like Andrew Leahey to come and play Andrew Leahey guitar.
Right.
And I think it's just you get the gigs. I think like it would be like harder like if I was trying to get, you know, like a Keith Urban gig or like a pop country thing. But I think generally what I've gotten is more like East Nashville, you know, I guess like slightly left of center kind of groups, and like that's where I like to, I guess, like pitch my group as well.
I mean, yeah, I was going to ask you like where you consider who you consider your peers, you know.
In Nashville?
Well, now you're just in, you know, Americana as a whole.
I mean, we love Tom Petty. You know, I mean, like to me, I call it like American rock and roll. I think like that. I mean, you can have a lot. I mean, like that could mean like Jack White, but I mean, like to us, it means like Tom Petty and Springsteen. You know, like Mellencamp, Dawes, Jason Isbell, groups like that.
Well, you know, that's okay. So this is something I wanted to ask you, and this kind of leads into it. Is the Homestead like a band, or are you a solo artist? Like, so what are you? You know, some of the people you're mentioning, it's like Tom Petty, Jason Isbell. Those guys, like, you know, they're like solo artists with incredible bands. You know what I mean? Certainly, Tom Petty has the Heartbreakers, so that's a band. But you know, but he's also kind of a solo artist. You know what I mean? Like, where do you see yourself in that?
I guess kind of like that. That would be like something to like aspire to. You know, I would love like a permanent group. I think in Nashville, it's not realistic unless you can offer them consistent work and great pay. And we're like still, you know, I mean, you know, we're all like split in one hotel room on the road still.
Right.
I can only offer like so much, but like, I definitely want to present it as a band, and I think they're like band tunes, you know. Like, I can play them acoustically. I, you know, create them that way, but I kind of create them with like a whole group in mind. Right. So like even though the lineup changes often, well, like lately it's kind of, you know, like solidified, and that's great. You know, but I call it the Homestead because to me, like a homestead is a place where like there's not one home. I guess like it's not one building, it's a collection of buildings. And the kind of plurality creates the like singular thing, and that to me is, you know, kind of what my band is. There's a lot of like permutations and lineup changes, but you know, like together it's all one band.
And when did you start doing the Homestead?
I guess we put out our first like indie album, which you will never hear, I hope, 2012.
Okay.
And then we
so
put
that
out...
doesn't exist in the digital realm.
It did. We took it off when this new album came out because it helped I feel like the new album is a more proper like introduction of what we
Right.
do. I was still kind of getting like back into it after having like half a decade off.
Right.
And I think I was exploring country a bit more than I would have if I had already lived in Nashville.
Right.
Once I got to town, I was like, I don't know country music at all. I can't play country music at all. What am I doing trying to do this, what, like alt country like thing? It's like not what I do best.
Right.
Plus, I think just, like touring our asses off for years and years and years helped kind of carve out what we do.
Right.
Yeah. Plus, I got crazy ill.
Well,
and I had to
I wanted
pause
to
there,
ask.
too.
I wanted to ask you about that. So, how did, for people listening that don't know the story?
Yeah.
I mean, you had a brain tumor.
Yes, I had an
Right, which
acoustic
is-
neuroma.
So I'm curious. How did you figure that out? My dad. My dad's been dead for a long time, but
sorry to hear that.
he died from a brain tumor.
Really?
And so and the way that he figured it out was it was affecting his ability to do certain things. So he went to the doctor and they did whatever they did and they figured it out. So I'm wondering, like, was it having an effect on you? Were you noticing like I can't feel my hand or
Totally.
what I mean?
Yeah, we were touring super hard in 2012 and 2013, and I had like started getting like migraines, crazy migraines. I guess maybe in 2009 or so, and like I would go to like try to have them checked out, but you can't really. Who knows where headaches come from?
Right.
And if I was offered like a pill I could take every day. Or I could just, like pop an Excedrin whenever I would get pain, and that would help. And I just kind of went that route. And then when we were touring heavily in 2013, I started getting hearing problems, and they went, I think, a bit deeper than, like I've had like drums in my ear for like a month, and so
Right.
like it was weird. It was kind of like it felt like my ears were like packed with cotton or something. And,
Right.
and like it would go like in and out in that ear, and then like for a while I was hearing two pitches in that one ear, and it made it terrible to like
Two
play
pitches?
on stage. Yeah, and I would hear your like normal one, and then like a weird like off kilter interval or
Oh
something.
wow!
And
How the hell would you sing with that going on?
I had some terrible gigs.
Right.
Like, I remember one in Nashville where it was just embarrassing. I was playing alone too, and I couldn't really hide behind anything. And I had to. I thought it was the like monitors were going, crazy, but it was me. It was my own head going crazy. And so it took. Like I passed out in a Kroger parking lot one day and like smacked my head on the ground. I guess my tumor was, like raging or whatever. And
yeah.
when I like woke up, we went to the like doctors and they gave me an an MRI.
Right.
And that's when they were like, "Oh, you have this tumor, and that's why you've been having all these
Right.
problems." And so that was 2013, and the diagnosis came in August, and the operation, like brain surgery, was in November.
Oh, really? You had to wait that long?
Yeah.
Were you like, get this fucking thing out of my head now, please?
I like should have been like that, but kind of, like ever the like businessman, I was like, I've got to go out and like tie up ends, like loose ends, and I got to go play. We had like Americana, like Fest. We were like booked to play, and we were playing a couple like larger gigs, and I think I wanted to go and like ring the bell as loudly as I could,
Right.
like, in the hopes that it would keep resounding while I was getting better.
Right.
But it took a long time to get better.
How long?
I mean, probably 2 years, actually.
Right.
We had the
What was that process? I mean, what do you do post brain surgery to
Yeah.
recuperate?
Well, the operation was 12 hours, and I was not awake. I was like put out,
Right.
and I woke up in the neuro ICU. I was there for, I guess, the like majority of a week, and then I came home. And for the first month, it was just like pure couch time. I mean, actually, it was pure lazy boy time because we had like a friend who like brought over this great chair. But I couldn't lift anything heavier than 5 pounds. And I was having that weird like two-tone hearing thing, and so I couldn't watch TV, couldn't listen to music, and was just in constant pain. Like I think I heard what our doctors say, like for like every hour that you're asleep in the operation, it takes like a month to get better, and like a 12-hour operation, it should have been 1 year, but
Right.
within 3 months of getting better, I went back on tour. I think to
Really?
yeah, and that was my decision, and it was not a smart one. I think I was just trying to prove to everyone that I could do it.
Right.
And I mean, it was like winter time. I was going up through like New England, New York. It was cold. It was snowy. It was a terrible time to go to that part of the country. And plus, I was just constantly in pain. And I'd be on stage and I'd be asking like, why did I put myself through this? Like, why? I'm like, why go through the costly process of touring if you can't give it your all?
I've asked myself that many times without a brain tumor at all.
Yeah. And I came back and I had like migraines daily for months on end. I couldn't work. And
where do you think that drive comes from? Because that's like serious commitment.
To play?
Yeah.
I think, feeling like I missed out on doing it at like a younger time in my life. Yeah, and like you said, I'm not like an old person, but like I'll play gigs in Nashville with guys who are 22 and they're just, killing it. And I'm like, damn it, I wish I had that drive, and I wish I had it all collected together like you do when I was your age, because I would be, like not here now.
Right.
But coming off that tour and like nursing these crazy migraines, I'd always planned on chasing down my break on the road and like playing, trying to play that like perfect gig to that right person, and I realized I couldn't keep doing that, at least not like right then. And so like that's when I started kind of getting together all these like new songs and looking for like a real good, honest, I guess like marquee name producer, and I thought I would chase down, I guess like my break that way, and that's how it worked out.
Right.
Coincidentally enough.
Really?
Yeah, I did that album with Ken Coomer.
Sure.
He I played like in Wilco and Uncle Tupelo, and
Yeah, sure. Great drummer.
Great drummer.
Yeah. He did the drums on your record, correct?
Yeah, in like 1 or 2 takes, just killed it.
Wow.
And I was able to use that and go around town and talk with labels, and I think there was some kind of like balking on their part because I was a guy who had like a hole in his head,
right,
and was not quite in a place where I could tour yet and properly push it yet.
Well, so how did you wind up? It seems to me from an outsider looking in, like 30 Tigers is like the place to be right now.
Yeah.
Especially for the kind of music you play and the kind of bands you want to be on the road with, and the scene that you're in. Like that seems like you couldn't have landed at a better place, a better situation.
Lucky.
It's a one-stop shop. It's a label. It's management. It's a booking agent maybe too.
Yeah.
Or
well,
a publishing company. Aren't they kind of like a multi?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like a buffet, and you can choose what you want. So we have like distro and radio with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have our own like management. Actually, you're talking with BJ Barham. Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. We have like his manager is our manager.
Oh, okay, great.
Chris Nardone. Hi, Chris. What was the question? I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just, that seems like I'm curious how you landed there. That seems like the best, to go from, you're a struggling musician, all of a sudden you have this horrible sickness to contend with, which must have, I can only imagine, if I have the flu, I'm like very emotional. Like you must have, I can only imagine that would have thrown you into like some dark personal times emotionally, and then to go from that to kind of re-establish yourself and wind up at like the best label you could possibly probably be at for what you're doing. That seems like a real victory there.
Yeah, it was. I think going through like something like that, it makes you in pain constantly for a while and sad, like you said, but it also kind of clarifies what you want to do, and it clarifies how great it is once you can do it.
Right.
And so I felt like I was like a born again like road warrior. I was all about it, and I was quite proud of what we had created with the album, and I was able to. I think we got drinks with David Macias, who is like the CEO of 30 Tigers, and he had, I think, like heard the music. He wasn't really aware of the whole story,
right?
And he said like, what we do at 30 Tigers is we need like a narrative. You can look at like Jason Isbell. You've got this, clear, great narrative of this, killer guy who joins like Drive-By Truckers at like 21 or whatever, and like writes killer songs, gets caught up in the whirlwind of like partying, cleans up and kills it like, even like more on his own.
Right.
Great story. What's your story? And I was like, you haven't heard about what I went through? And he was like, no. And I told him, and then he said, all right, we're in.
Yeah. Sign on the dotted line, kid.
Yeah. So this like thing that had almost, I guess, like ended my career wound up helping it get going again.
I mean, do you feel like going through that experience, did that change your songwriting? Did it focus it differently? What would the effect,
Yeah.
in your opinion, have been on the way you write?
I think it just like made me care more. You know, I never took music for granted growing up. You know, but you just you always assume you're going to be able to hear it with two ears in one tone, not two tones at once.
Right.
And you know, if you can play it, I think you always assume you're going to be able to play it. And it was something like I worked on, I crafted it, but I was never, you know, like, I mean, just, you know, thanking God I had it every day, you know? So I think it just taught me to care about it more. And I think that like bled into how I play it and how I write it.
Did Ken Coomer give you any like awesome Wilco or Uncle Tupelo stories that you can relay to us and the listening public?
Some R-rated stories for sure. I can tell you after we turn off the mics. You know, he's got all these, you know, cool, you know, gold records on the wall and whatnot.
Was like, as a producer, was he like, if you guys were debating at a certain point, was he like, well, that's how we did it on Summer Teeth, kid?
Pretty much.
So,
yeah, pretty much. You know, it's just like, to me, you know, a good like roots rock album kind of, I mean, like it starts with a good drum sound, and
Right.
he just like, I mean, like he like owns the percussion world in that genre, I think. And so like,
does he have like a steady gig, or does he mostly produce now?
He mostly produces. Like I think he goes and plays on albums too, but
Right.
he mostly produces.
Right.
He he'd worked with this band called Sons of Bill, who I had grown up with, and he created this great album with them called Love and Logic, and that's how I heard of him. And he had gone through some like health challenges also, and was drawn to my story, I think. And he just opened up his own studio called Cartoon Moon, and it just kind of all worked out. Like, and I was still. Like, I mean, like I was in the like thick of getting better still. Like I would,
Right.
you know, every day my alarm would go off on my iPhone, and it was my, you know, cue to go take my like pills and everything. So
right.
like that was the whole like story of the album, and it kind of colored the album. It will be, you know, going forward, it will be cool to like leave that behind. And
Right.
you know, I want the like story to be, you know, like purely musical and not just this tragedy to triumph, as my publicist calls it.
Sure.
You know, but like you work with what you're given, and you know, again, like I do think this like thing that was almost the, you know, the like end of it all, you know, kind of helped me jump back into the game, because you cannot pause, you know, your career for like 2 years and then you know, expect to like jump in and go at the like same speed you were going.
You know, you mentioned Jason Isbell earlier, and I know he played at or organized some kind of benefit concert.
Yeah, he
for
did.
your medical bills. Like, how did that come together? Were you friends with him?
We had organized that. Yeah, I'd gotten to know him because I did a piece on him in the magazine American Songwriter, and it was right before like Southeastern came out.
Oh wow!
And you know, he was like just like starting to become the. I mean, like he was always great. You know, but that was just like before the.
It really blew up for him.
Like the avalanche.
Yeah.
You know, but he kept in touch, and then when I got sick. We had insurance, but it's not cheap to get brain surgery. And I think and they told me like if we hadn't had insurance, it would have cost $250,000. So like, thank God we had it.
Yeah.
But you know, like just with co-pays and like not like working for a while, the you know costs were adding up. And so that show, it was Jason Isbell playing with Amanda Shires, and it was Wild Feathers and Nikki Lane. And two local acts, Great Peacock and Derek Hoke, and it helped cover all my costs at the time, and it was great.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And we just got to go on tour with his wife 2 months ago, Amanda Shires.
Oh right, yeah.
And so that was great to be able to like thank her like a lot for doing that for me.
That's amazing. Have you kept in contact with those folks since then?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. Well, and they're king and queen of Nashville. Well, I guess king and queen of my Nashville.
Right. That's
they
an
deserve it
amazingly
all.
generous thing for them to do. That's so cool to hear that they would support,
I agree.
their local musician scene.
Yeah, and it was I mean like 40-minute gig on their part could help like us like tremendously, and I'm glad they did it. I really am.
Well, one last thing I wanted to ask you about was getting wasted with Rick Ocasek.
Nice.
What's the
Tell you
story
about
there?
that? I told you about that?
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, you haven't told me about it yet. Beyond that,
Yeah. Well, and I'll keep it PG. It was, while I was at Spin Magazine, we had this thing called Spin House Live, which was like artists would come in. I think it was once every couple weeks, and they would play our conference room, and it was great. Like on my very first afternoon there, we had the National come and play, and we had like Tegan and Sarah and a couple of groups who aren't around anymore, whose names I can't remember. But yeah, he came and played. I think he had just done a solo album. He was playing alone, like playing acoustic guitar. But I remember just walking into my boss's office, Jake Hill, and like Rick Ocasek was there, and then Jake was like, like Andrew, Rick, and he was like, "Hi, Andrew," and I was like, "Holy shit, you're Rick Ocasek." I don't know why I used that kind of accent there, and we had a good time that night. Yeah, and I got to write an article on it too. I think that was my only spin article during my internship.
the
That's
only
my
spin
crowning-
article that you ever wrote drunk
Yeah,
was Rick Ocasek.
I've written quite a lot of them since then.
Right.
Right. Yeah,
Well, cool, man. Do you want to play a song?
gladly. Can I have a swig of your water?
Absolutely.
I know that we just met, but
Yeah. You can kill it if you want.
I appreciate it.
Take all the water you like.
All right, so I'm gonna play a brand new one. It's so new, I don't even know if it has a name yet. It's just gonna be my new one.
It's a Walking the Floor exclusive.
Yeah, here we go. I've been working on the doorway, dressed the wood in new paint, as if a brighter blue's gonna make us stay. I'm pulling blinds toward the ceiling when she's coming for the weekend, telling ghosts in the attic to just behave. She's a mender, a time spender, a stay the cost till the ender. And she deserves something better and lovely to miss. I want her to remember this. I want her to remember this. I've been sweeping floors clean, keeping myself neat, tapping the brakes and adjusting the speed. I'm sifting through these older records to find a song that'll get her, something that'll smile if it lands on me. She's a fixer, Stevie Nicks her, a rumors record track sixer, a songbird sing who lives that can cut or kiss. I want her to remember this. I want her to remember this. She's a fallen lover lighter. She's someone's starter. Been like a cloth run dry of water. The shape that she's got herself in needs a twist. I want her to remember this. I want her to remember this. I want her to remember this.
Stevie Nickser.
It's Stevie Nickser.
I like that line. That's a
She
good
is a
line.
Stevie Nickser, man. All the good parts about that.
Was hard to take.
All right, that was Andrew Leahey from Andrew Leahey and the Homestead playing you a brand new track. You can only find that here on Walking the Floor for the time being. That was great. He was great. Make sure you get on out there to andrewleaheymusic.com. Check out what Andrew's doing, where he's playing, what he's putting out. You can find him on Twitter at Andrew Leahey. And that's it. That's it for this week. We'll be back next week. As always, this is Chris Shiflett signing off of Walking the Floor. Adios, amigos!
Told